Welcome to NPC Overwriter, where we challenge mainstream source code to develop independent thought, one user story at a time.
Companies like Goodyear, Folgers, and Xerox carefully follow DEI policies to keep stakeholders happy, avoid civil rights lawsuits, and maintain the social status quo. But in the 1960s, these brands' marketing teams wouldn't exactly pass today's HR and PR standards. Younger people today would look at these ads and wonder, how could they be so backward? Assuming their heads didn't explode first. Just take a look at this one from Goodyear, which claims their new polyglass tires were so tough that they could withstand the abuse of a woman driver.
When a woman's at the wheel, polyglass means more than mileage.
Coffee giant Folgers once urged women to buy their instant roast if they struggled to make a decent cup for their husbands.
Harvey, want anything special for your birthday?
Just a decent cup of coffee.
You're kidding.
I'm serious. Honey, your coffee's undrinkable.
It's pretty harsh.
Well, so's your coffee. You know, the girls down at the office make better coffee on their hot plate.
And Xerox encouraged businesses to consider their copy machines, which were so easy to use that even the office bimbo could figure it out.
Sometimes my boss asks me which is the original, and sometimes I don't know. Here, Mr. Smith, I'm going to lunch with Mother.
But as second-wave feminism progressed, companies shifted their marketing tactics to avoid being the target of women's advocacy groups and boycotts. As a result, companies began to portray women in more vital and independent roles. For example, Virginia Slim Cigarettes launched their "You've Come a Long Way, Baby" campaign, which marked the old days when people frowned upon women smoking in public, or at all for that matter.
In 1910, Mrs. Pamela Benjamin was caught smoking in the gazebo. She got a severe scolding and no supper that night. In 1915, Mrs. Cynthia Robinson was caught smoking in the cellar behind the preserves. Although she was 34, her husband sent her straight to her room.
In 1983, Apple released its 1984-themed Super Bowl commercial, which portrayed female English Olympic hammer swinger Anya Major symbolically defeating Big Brother, signaling a social break from traditional norms.
With one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Ironically, feminism and progressivism were exactly the bludgeons used to put us in the dystopian novel years later. And who can forget the nonstop, "That's sexual harassment, and I don't have to take it" campaign that existed through the 90s.
Be a little more sexy. Hey, we're talking about your job here.
No, we're talking about sexual harassment here, and I don't have to take it.
Sexual harassment violates you, and it violates the law.
And by the way, ladies, you can blame these commercials for why your $300 salon trip goes unnoticed. By the turn of the century, the glass ceiling was shattered, swept up, and chucked in the trash. By men, most likely. Before long, women in the marketplace were no longer unique. Women weren't just taking dictation and making copies anymore. They headed departments, divisions, and whole companies. Sexual harassment training became mandatory, and discrimination could not only get you fired, but slapped with a lawsuit. The problem for corporate marketing teams became that they still needed idiots in their ads to illustrate product ease of use. Enter the hapless husband, the bumbling boyfriend, and the disorganized dad. Simply, they turned it around. They made the men the idiots. This way, brands would be safe from progressive pushback, and if any men complained, they'd be instantly mocked. Making fun of men had another advantage, as consumer data showed that women were likelier to make purchasing decisions for the household anyway. It was a win-win-win. Before long, it was the men who couldn't drive, make a decent cup of coffee, or figure out the copy machine. And it's been working for decades. America Online was a trailblazer in the Derelict Dad campaign, starting with this guy waking up his kid in the middle of the night to figure out how to use the computer.
Why AOL? Well, we used to be with one of those other internet services, but everything was so complicated, only a child could understand it. Bobby, where's my download manager again? But now, with AOL, if I have a problem, I just call their 24-hour customer service. It's so easy.
T-Mobile picked on Dad and his brother for being idiots back in the Fave 5 flip phone days.
Is that Ricky Fisher in your Fave 5? 3-time first grader Ricky Fisher?
2 times, Mom.
Oh, honey, doesn't that kid eat pencils? Honey, you need to associate with smart guys.
Sort of like how you have Dad and Uncle Joe in your 5.
That's exactly right.
Go, go! Yeah!
Got it.
And Mom outright called Dad's idea for alternative socks stupid in this Hanes commercial.
Because we can't find socks that shape to our feet. We're sick of it.
Sick of it.
That's really stupid.
Of course, countless other ads showed men as incompetent, usually in cleaning or home products commercials, where Dad just couldn't figure out whether that striped shirt should go in with the colors or whites. Around 2015, the dad bod phenomenon took off, highlighting out-of-shape men, which is said to have represented a break from traditional masculine expectations. Brands like Dollar Shave Club and Stanley Steamer took advantage of the hype. Imagine the social justice war that would have ensued had there been even one mom bod ad. But it wasn't just about making fun of men. Around that time, Procter & Gamble launched their Thank You Mom campaign, which sparked debate about sidelighting dad on screen. This led to a 2016 poll that found 2/3 of dads felt society didn't fairly recognize their roles on TV. Brand messaging also impacted young boys' expectations of women, such as this Dairy Queen commercial, where a young girl seduces a boy to get him to order him a treat, a tactic she likens to shooting fish in a barrel.
Hi, we'd like 2 fudge brownie temptations.
Mom, just make it one.
I'm surprised you wanted to share.
Actually, I don't.
Pardon me, ladies. This is compliments of the gentleman in the donkey shirt.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Most might say this is just supposed to be funny, but what does that say to young boys? That they should expect women to manipulate them? And do ads like this tell young girls that not only is this behavior acceptable, but you might get a, hey, look at you from your mom? It's also worth mentioning the idiot dad trope in entertainment as well, because it's often mixed into the debate. TV hits like Everybody Loves Raymond, Married with Children, Family Guy, Home Improvement, 2.5 Men, Bewitched, and The Simpsons were all built around this theme. Even for the diversity dream that was Modern Family, producers ensured Phil Dunphy maintained the stereotype in question.
Always look people in the eye. Even if they're blind, just say, I'm looking you in the eye. Or, if you get pulled over for speeding, tell the policeman your spouse has diarrhea. Philosophy.
And it wasn't just on the silver screen. Films like Father of the Bride, Uncle Buck, Grown Ups, Old School, Step Brothers, the National Lampoon series, and many others made millions with the man-children. Still, the entertainment industry as a whole kept things in balance. For every Al Bundy, Clark Griswold, or Ray Barone, or his brother or dad for that matter, we could find strong male roles in programs like Family Matters, Growing Pains, Fresh Prince, 24, Walker Texas Ranger, Star Trek, MacGyver, Magnum P.I., Yellowstone, 24, Blue Bloods, NYPD Blue, Law & Order, take your pick from the superhero universes, the list goes on. Also, although they're often the butt of the joke, we got to know our Al Bundys, Homer Simpsons, and Tim the Toolman Taylors over years. Although usually depicted as dim, they were usually more lovable and perhaps more relatable than any other cast members. They didn't call it Everybody Loves Raymond for nothing. In advertising, we don't make those long-term connections. Instead, commercials pepper us with rapid-fire mini-stories with nameless people who portray men as imbeciles, and it's impacting our social outlook.
Dad comes home. And he's pissed.
Men would have been laughed out of town 10 or 20 years ago if they suggested advertising was actively anti-male, and the idea of a men's rights advocacy group would be considered absurd and misogynist. But men grew tired of this hapless husbandry, and men's rights organizations do exist and have been pushing back beneath the surface for some time. In the early 2010s, groups like the National Coalition for Men called out the anti-male discrimination that dominated most commercial breaks. The issue even made CNN's headline news during a 2012 segment, if you can believe that with your post-2020 eyes. In the same year, men became more comfortable speaking out after popular blogs like The Dadvocate and Blather Wince Repeat and other mainstream outlets wrote about the issue, furthering online debate. While many people thought the argument was an uphill battle, men were surprised when advertisers responded. Several companies eased up on the dull dad ads in response to the public backlash. For example, Dove's Men Plus Care campaign portrayed men as more competent and loving fatherly roles, as they did with this 2015 Super Bowl ad. Procter & Gamble toyed with the idea in one of their Tide advertisements.
When Emily was born, I had never even been in the same room with a baby. Having a baby completely changes your perspective. Lee came down with this stomach thing, and I, of course, got Emily. Suddenly, I'm doing it all. I couldn't bring Emily near Lee. The bed was pretty much off limits.
And Cheerios launched their How to Dad operation in 2015, which praised everyday dads for their domestic responsibilities.
Now, dadhood isn't always easy. When a rule is broken, we're the enforcement. Hey, buddy, it's garbage day. But when a heart is broken, we're the reinforcement. And we wouldn't have it any other way, because being a dad is awesome. Just like new peanut butter Cheerios are awesome. That's why it's the official cereal of dadhood. And this, my friends, this is how to dad.
While the floundering father wasn't completely absent from commercial breaks, there was at least more variety within messaging. Then, 2020 happened. Whatever progress men made was washed away in a new wave of censorship, toxic masculinity, intersectionality, inclusivity, and equity. Whether standard anti-male or DEI-infused marketing, it's all low-level conditioning that impacts viewers, especially kids. Children see about 13,000 and 30,000 ads on TV each year, which doesn't include all the social media, print ads, and other online content. It must influence how they see social roles and themselves. That was a major reason for why feminists fought back at the original ads in the 1960s to begin with. In 2024, you'll find a mix of marketing tactics regarding the father figure, such as Verizon's dramatic dad campaign. Here's one where dad just can't seem to control his emotions or understand how to lower the phone bill, while mom and the kids remain calm and reasonable.
Dad, you okay?
It's our phone bill. We pay for things that we don't need. Loaded bundles, the reckless spending. No more.
That's a bit dramatic. A better plan is Verizon. Starts at $25 a line.
Did you say $25 a line?
And save big on things we love, like Netflix and Max.
Oh, that's awesome.
Spaghetti night. Dinner in 30.
Dad?
Here's a touching Cetaphil ad where dad just wants to spend time with his daughter. Uber deployed this seemingly over-organized dad to advertise their reserve pickup service, which got his family to the airport 5 hours early. Kayak's Kayak Denier campaign shows dad as the one ruining all the fun with his crazy conspiracy theories.
I'm so glad we could all take this trip together, son.
Yeah, and Kayak made getting here so easy.
Here we go.
You know I'm a kayak denier. You can't possibly believe
Kayak compares hundreds of travel sites at once.
Get out.
I will do no such thing.
And don't use kayak to fly home, because it's not real! I'm going back to the room.
But there's a mom version too.
Open your eyes.
Compare hundreds of travel sites at once. Kayak.
But they're both white. But that's a video for another day. For now, I think in the past few years, many of us have realized that we've been programmed to believe certain things, and TV brainwashing isn't as far-fetched as it used to be. And it's impacting the next generation. Earlier this year, Reuters published an article on a global study showing that young men are becoming more conservative in the US and globally. This is a clear result of society constantly telling them that they are the threat, the guilty, or at least the incompetent, as we've seen them do so well with all three. It's no wonder conservative-leaning figures like Tom Brady, Jordan Peterson, and David Goggins have gained popularity. The youth are starving for strong male role models. We here in 2024 laugh at the absurdity of the ad campaigns of the 1960s put out by brands like Xerox and Folgers and Goodyear, but before we know it, future Americans will watch clips of the commercials of our time and ask themselves the same question: how were people so backward back then?
Well, see you later.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for version 1 of NPC Overrider. I'm your lead engineer, Greg. If you enjoyed today's user story, please set the like button to true for me. I'd really appreciate that. And if you're interested, hit the subscribe button. We'd sure love to have you on our development team. If you want to help save the NPCs and you have an idea for a future video, open a ticket in the comments section. But for now, it's about Beer 30. We're going to sign off. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next release.